Okay, y'all, this is part 2, so my camera timed out, so I was making the bail and going through the instruction of that, so I want to go over with you the techniques that I used. So down here is our second inside wire that we added. This one right here. So I brought these 2 wires in and I wrapped 5 coils on each side using 2 separate wires. So I'm doing a 2-wire bail weave. I left a portion of the wire raw, meaning open, without weaving it. Then I have a tutorial on a 2-wire bail weave that you can refer to. Then I weaved up about an inch, and then I pulled the 2 side wires away and started weaving in the remaining 6. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here. Then I weaved up a little bit, then I pulled these out and I started weaving in the remaining 4, and then I weaved in the remaining 2. So sorry about that. So we have these 2 wires that were in the first part that are on the outside, and now we're going to create our bail. We have our existing half round down here, so I'm going to push this down at the neck towards me, and I'm going to use my finger, and I'm going to start shaping the bail. I'm going to move these out of the way because they're in my way. And I'm just going to start rolling this back until I get the desired shape that I like. And then I'm going to take these inside 2 wires. I'm going to separate these out. So let's get these. Not sure I'm going to use these wires here. And by the way, I used about 5, I would cut probably 6 feet. So I'm going to move these out of the way so we've got 3 wires on the back on each side. I'm going to cut these even, these 2 legs right here. And then I'm going to pre-shape them. I'm going to roll them in so I can put them in this gap space here. So I'm going to pull my bail back, and I'm going to start to feed these wires through the center. To make my life easy, I'm going to push on the bail as I'm pushing on the curve of the wires. So as I'm pushing the curve of the wires through, I'm going to be pushing on the bail equally. And then I'm going to get in my best working position, straighten those out a little bit, and push it all the way through. So you should have your 2 center wires coming out the back. You've got 3 wires on each side. As I mentioned in the beginning, I'm not going to be duplicating this because I can't remember exactly how I did it because everything is off the hip for me. Now I'm going to bring these wires back in, and I'm going to circle them towards the back. And actually, I want these up and out. So I'm going to lift these 2 outside wires up in the back. I need to get them out of my way. Now I'm going to bring these outside wires that are loose, start bringing them towards the back and circle them down. So I'm just bringing them down, I'm arcing them down a little bit. Want to make sure that they're matching up on each side. I know I got a lot of wires going on here, gang, so bear with me. I'm going to move these 2 lead weaving wires up and out of my way so I can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to scoop these wires in. So there's 2 remaining bail wires right here that I'm scooping in with my finger. Then I'm going to separate the 2 center wires. Because I'm going to wrap them. This one's got to go in more. I'm looking at this. I'm going to take these 2 wires here and I'm going to wrap them around the loops that we made here with these outside 18 gauge square wires. And I'm going to feed them through right in here. So this wire is going to come around and feed through. Just want to line them up. And this side over here still looks a little bit further away. So I'm just using my fingernail to squeeze it in. So I'm going to pre-shape that wire by rolling it, telling it the direction that I want it to go. And I'm going to feed it through these 2 wires, but I'm not going to lock it in. Just going to start setting myself up. You want to straighten that leg out as it's coming through because the nature of the wire is for it naturally to follow the curl. Now what's important with square wire, if you're new to using it, is you want to keep the flat side up. So you want to watch that it doesn't turn on its edge. So I'm going to straighten up on this leg. Uh-oh, I think I might have fed it through wrong. Did I? No, let me look. No, I did not. Your wires certainly can play with your eyes, especially if you've been working on a piece for a while. Slowly, slowly squeezing that through. I need to get different pliers. Sorry about the arm there. Just a little bit at a time. You always want to turn your work around so that you can see what you're doing in all directions. So I'm going to pull this one up a little bit. This one's got to be pushed down. So now I'm going to start to tighten them up. You want to watch that you don't squeeze your wires so close together that you overlap them. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Just straightening out my bail. I got a little tight over here, but I've still got some gap space to move these wires down and back. And it's coming together. That's what I mean by doing it in slow increments so you don't overlap your wires. So now I'm going to push this wire back, and I'm gently squeezing on it. Get that down. Now, if you wanted to at this point, you could certainly add a bead here in the middle. What a beautiful stone that is. Okay, we got a lot going on here. So now I'm gonna take these wires here, I'm gonna swing this through because I need to bring this wire back here. Gotta get these little guys out of the way. So I'm going to cut this. I'm going to take more, I'm going to take off less than what I need until I can see what I need. Okay, that gives me, it's very helpful to, you know, less is more, just to give you an idea of how much you're going to need. I'm going to pre-shape that wire as I'm bringing it over. So I know that that's too much. So I'm going to go ahead and trim it. And that looks like it should be good. Let's see. Still just a smidge long. That's why I do everything in very little increments. Some people do things very fast, not me. So that's perfect right there. And I'm just going to cinch that down in there like that. So I'm going to rock this one over. Trim it. That looks like it's still a little bit long. That looks like it should be just about right. It's still a wee bit long. So I'm going to get up underneath that wire. That's why I don't close it down all the way. So I still have room to get in there and work that wire. So here's what we've got on both sides. And a lot of wonky wires going everywhere. Okay, so now I want to straighten out my bail a little bit. I'm going to bring these wires using my finger around. I'm going to make a little loop. And let's match them up. This one's a little higher. So I want to bring this one up. And my wire is pitching, so I want to straighten it out. I need to flatten that wire out so that it's on its flat side. And I'm doing that by coming up underneath it and straightening it out. So let's see what we got here. This one needs to come down a little bit. So I'm going to squeeze these in just a little bit more. And that's going to pitch that wire up. This one still needs to come in more. I need to anchor this one up so that they're even on each side. And I'm thinking I'm not going to need these, but I'm going to move them around the back just in case. I need to straighten this out. And it's got to come up. Okay, so now we're going to follow and trace this. So I'm going to push this down, trying to keep my loop in the back and the flat side of my wire. So I'm going to hold this loop right here with my finger and bring that down. Then I'm going to take my fingernail and I'm going to curve it. I'm going to stop right there until I do a little bit on this side. So I'm going to hold that loop down, push the wire on an angle so that it's and I think it needs to come up some. It does. And then I'm going to get my thumb in there. And then see how we're doing here. I want to push those loops towards the inside of the bail. Really want them pitched in there. There we go. See how I pushed it towards the inside of the bail? Do the same thing over here. So they should be something like this on the back. So the concept is the same, it's just a different design that we're doing. Okay, liking that. So I need to get these guys out of the way. Let's see. So now I'm going to move these wires, these last 4 wires off the bail that I have in the back, and I'm going to hold here at the shoulder where I have my wires bending over the outside wires. So I'm going to hold at the shoulder on both sides, and I'm going to rock this out. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm holding at the shoulder. I'm always going to stop and look at my work. This one's got to come in more. It's rounding out too much down here. So I'm going to pitch it from the top. Just straightening that out a little bit up there. I want it to come out even further. So I'm just pulling on the leg of that wire. You always want to turn your work around as much as possible so that you can, I have really mangled this half round back here. I might have to add in some new half round so that you can see from all directions how everything is lining up. So I'm going to push that down just very gently. Just make sure that it's secure. Okay, I got to get these guys out of my way. They're so in my way. Okay, let's take a look. So now I'm going to hold at the curve. So I'm going to put my thumb at the curve and rock this out even more. Hold at the curve, rock that out even more. So now I'm going to take my thumb and right against the stone. So the wire is coming out off the shoulder of the stone. I'm going to put my thumb right against the stone and I'm going to curve this wire in. And it's always harder on the other side because I'm not left-handed. And I got wires in my way. So let's see what we got going here. I can tell I got a bigger curve on this side. So how I'm going to correct that is by swinging it in. I'm going to hold the curve and swing it in. This is going to be so cool. I'm just trying to figure out, might have to undo some wraps down here. So we're coming along. Just playing with it a little bit, making sure I've got some good symmetry. This one still seems like it's riding off the shoulder there. And that's because my loop lifted up. All right, so now we're going to bring these wires, these last two bail wires that are on the outside here, and we're just going to swing them around. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with them because this be all in my head. Got to push this back down. There we go. That's lining it up beautifully. So I think what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to tuck them inside the bail. Could bring them up and over. I am not going to need these. So I have decided I'm done holding on to them. I'm going to hold very firmly and snap. It's a wiggle jiggle. Snaps clean off. So let's see if I can utilize this wire. This is my half round that I've mangled pretty bad. But I'm going to see if I can get away with it. And I think I can. And I twisted this one too. Got to just get my fingernail up underneath that flat side and reshape that half round. Not liking that still. What I'm doing is I'm scooping that to really clean it up. And I may be able to still use it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take that half round that we had left from before, and we're going to feed it around this wire here that's crossing over. We're going to do this on the same side through the frame. You want to hold very firmly and pull that down. So you should have gap space there to be able to pull this through. Okay, so I'm going to push this wire down. So I'm pushing it down so I can get it in the position that I want it. Gently tap down on it. And then I'm going to feed it through again. So I'm feeding it through again. And this one should be a little tighter. Ooh, grab the wrong pliers. I'm holding very firmly with my thumb. So I'm going to do the same thing over here, get these buggers out of my way. I'll line up this wire and hold firmly. I can tell that it's got a little gap in the back. So I'm going to come behind and pull it tighter. Then I'm going to feed it through again. So here's what we got going on in the back. Now I'm going to wrap where we have this gap here, right here and right here. I'm going to wrap this wire, still working with the half round. I would say that this is definitely an advanced wrap, but if you're a beginner, give it a go because it's the only way we learn. And everything to me in this art is about technique. You can follow a million things, but it's all about how it's done. Not so much what's done, but how it's done. How do they get it to do that? How do they moving the wire in the opposite direction of where you really want to go? Okay, I had to take a pause there very quickly. So now this is going to be so cool. I'm loving it. I'll be pushing these loops back in even more in a little bit. So we've got our 2 wraps. I'm going to do one more because I'm pretty sure I got enough space in there. So I'm going to snap this. I'm holding my piece very, very firmly as I'm doing my wiggle jiggle. Okay, let's take a look. Beautiful. Now I'm going to put a bead here, and I'm going to roll these legs in and attach them. And I'm still thinking about what I want to do with these back wires. I've got 3 of them. Normally, I'm wondering if I can follow up, come in between this gap here, and go down. Let me think about that. As I mentioned, this is all impromptu. That is just going to be a beautiful piece. So let me take a look here. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to cut these about, so I'm at the X, right? Let me blow this up. So I'm right here at my X. This little cross right here is the 1/2 inch mark. I'm going to start there. Move this up. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pliers, and right where the X is, kind of like when we're making a bail, I'm going to squeeze the legs together. So you should have this. I'm still thinking about these back wires, about running one of them up here and then tucking the rest around the back of the stone. It's going to be beautiful. At least I think so. I could easily wanted to show you guys. Let's see, that's a ruby. Do I have a loose garnet? This one might be too big. Or an amethyst in there. So I like to pre-wrap little tiny, tiny beads. So this is a faceted 2.5 millimeter amethyst. And I could put this right there. Look how pretty that would be. And I would simply just bend these wires through. Have to get up underneath that bail. And I might do that. Or, what do we got here? That is a ruby. That would be pretty too, but I don't like that. I think it's a little bit too big for me. So I'm going to leave out my amethyst while I'm thinking about that, and we're going to work down here. So I am going to get an amethyst bead. And let's see what would look good there. This is a faceted round amethyst that I could put right there. But I think I need something a little bit bigger. That's better. That's a bigger bead. I'm going to roll the legs back. So let me think about my size here. I'll put this in my little cap. And I'm going to cut these even shorter now. I'm going to come back. So I'm looking at where the X is, in between 1/4 and 1/2 inch. So right here where it crosses over, I don't want to use those pliers. I'm cutting 2 wires at the same time. So now I'm going to roll these back. And I'm using the smallest barrel on my 6-step bail making pliers. And I'm going to have to do these separately now. Now you put your pliers back in there to line them up. And I'll be closing those off after I get my bead in there. Okay, let's see what we got for bead sizes. Those are all too big. I think this one is going to be too big. Could put it behind, which would be really pretty. That's a lilac amethyst, and I like that bigger bead in there. Let's see what we got. And with the darker amethyst up here, or do I want to use a darker one? Ooh. Yeah, I think so. So now I'm going to get some half round wire, and I'm going to be using 22 gauge. I'm going to cut myself 4 inches. And I'm going to wrap this where the bead is sitting in the back. I don't want it to be like as dominant if it was sitting on the front. I'm just trying to find where my hole is. Let me see. Where is that hole? You guys can probably see it because I've got the camera blown up, but I can't. It's just all merging together. I'm not seeing it. There it is. So I'm going to come around the back to set that bead in there. And I'm going to create wraps. It's a little big, but I really wanted that in there instead of the little tiny one, although the tiny one would look good. If I don't like it, I'll take it out. So let's see what we got going. Need these to be closer together. I kind of want to hide it a little bit. So I need to curl that in more. Now I need to tighten down on this one. Don't want it moving around. So let's see what we got going here. This has got to go over that way. And these are going to be cut even smaller. I'm going to curl this side in a little bit more and wrap around the side of the stone. Okay. So let's keep running these wraps through. Crossed it over a little bit. Oh my goodness, making myself a mess here. You have to hold pretty firmly because they're not totally intact yet. I'm going to be running a wire through these two loops. I'm not going to be working with the same wire. There we go. That's the position that I wanted it in. So let's see how these are lining up. Oh, it's just going to be so pretty. I hope you enjoy this, everybody. I'd really love your feedback. It's very important, you know. Okay, so I am going to cut these a little bit shorter. Just took off a smidge. This one, let me roll this back first. Want it really close to my bead. So I am not going to snap these. I'm going to cut them off. Get as close as I can on the inside there. And cinch it down. And if you have to, lift up on your wire so you can get up underneath it. Okay, so now we're going to get ourselves just a little bit of half round. Cut myself about, oh, I don't know, 2.5 inches. I don't need a lot. And I definitely need to still snip this side down. These are called super flush cutters, and they're great for shaving off just a little edge. So I'm going to get my pliers hold very, very firmly, and I'm going to squeeze this gently in. Right next to the bead. Very firmly. Make sure they're lined up. This one has to go in more. Now, I'm going to get my half round and I'm going to come in between these loops. Make sure I'm on my flat side. I need to work in the back. I'm going to feed it through. That loop. Then I'm going to hold firmly. And I'm going to wrap this around both these loops as I'm pushing the two sides together. want to make sure that it's good and flat back there, that it's not bowing. So I'm going to get in there. See that little pucker there? You don't want that. So I'm going to flatten it down. Don't have a lot of working room. So I'm going to use my pliers. And I still want it down more. And I'm going to feed it through. Just need to get up underneath that other loop there. Got really weird light coming through my window, so I'm having a hard time seeing. I need a new lamp. If you guys have any suggestions for a really good lamp, mine is LED. I need to straighten this out. I need to cut that. It's too bent. I am catching up. So let me slide that back. There we go. And I'm going to flatten that down. That's much better. Super pretty. Just lining up my legs. Can I get through there one more time? There's a little bit of a bow here. So I need to get a tool. Smooth that out. It was bugging the dickens out of me. I'm going to see if I can get through one more time. I don't know. Let's see. Might be too close. Very time consuming. I don't know where I fed through, but I didn't go where I wanted to go. Okay. So let me take a look. I need to crimp these down in the back. I think that's what's kind of holding me up a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do, since that's becoming really taking up a lot of time, I'll probably rewrap it later. But this is just showing you guys the technique. I'm going to feed it through. Twice. So we've got 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top. I'm going to slide that down a little bit. I'm definitely going to later, just to give you guys an idea, I'm going to rewrap that. It's not satisfying to me, and you've always got to do what's going to make you happy. So I'm going to get my little tool in here to push that little tail up. So I can get underneath it. So I got such a small working area, and cinch it in. And then, yeah, I don't like this double wrap here. I'm going to probably come back in just to tell you guys where I'm going to go. And I'll double wrap each side and then wrap down. But it's off kilter to me, so I don't like that. But either way, it's going to be really pretty. I just don't want to take the time to do that now. So I've already been thinking while I'm doing this what I'm going to do with these. These I'm going to cut and shape them to the back. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut these now. And I'm going to leave about a little over a 1/4 inch from where they cross over the frame. Just to get them out of the way. Now these I'm going to lift up. And let's see if I like what I was thinking of. I want to have these lifted up and coming in this gap here. So they should both be coming out right here. Then I'm going to push them towards the middle. And I'm doing very little slow increments at a time. And then I'm going to follow this here and lock them in the back. So I'm going to come down and then swing the wire around to follow this curve. Or maybe I'll loop them in the front. Wow, that's just really pretty. I liked it with the single wire too, so I think what I'm going to do is loop them in right here. I'm going to bring in some half round. So let's take care of these guys in the back. This is going to end up being about an hour and a few minutes per video. So let's see what I want to do with these. Yeah, there's not enough space there to lock those in. I'm just straightening up this wire, thinking about what I want to do with it. So I'm going to loop these in. So I'm going to cut this even shorter. Let's see. This one still looks a little long. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loop them in. I'm going to curl them in on themselves. Get this little guy out of the way. So we've made these cute little loops in the back. Then we're just going to push them in. Once they get oxidized and in the tumbler, they'll be really hardened and they won't go anywhere. Let's see, do I have enough here to follow behind and tuck through? Don't think so. So, we need to push this loop in. I can see that it kind of rose up. Just pushing it inside that bail. That's much, much better. So I think with these, I'm debating, but I think I'm going to tuck them in. And I should have done it first. I could tuck them around here, but I don't want it to really change the look that I have going here. And fold this forward a little bit. I think what I'm going to do, you guys, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about what I want to do with these wires. I could either tuck them underneath these loops, which would keep those down, but that's 18 gauge. It's really not going to go anywhere. Or I could bring them around through the frame. So I'm going to lift them up and I'm going to tuck them in. So let's see what we got here. That may not work. Nope, it's going to work. I need to straighten this one out. I'm in the wrong direction. I need this to go over here. Now I can tuck it in. Beautiful. I'm going to push it to the inside of the bail. That worked out great. I get my little tool here and push that wire to the inside of the bail. So I've tucked it in there. And I'm going to do the same thing with this wire over here, just pushing it in. Just checking to see where they're setting inside of there. And I know that's not going to be easy for you guys to see. There we go. Got it right where I wanted it. There, perfect. So they're both tucked. So when I push them on an angle towards the inside of the bail. Now I can literally fold them up against the back. I know that's really hard to see. Okay, so now I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to follow the curve here. Unless, can I tuck this in the back? Don't really have anywhere to tuck it. Nope, it would come out through the other side and I don't want to see that. I could bring them, so I'm just telling you guys how I'm constantly thinking. Could bring them over and tuck them up underneath the back wires of the cab. And that's a very popular beginner thing. I personally don't like to do that a lot because it lifts my wire away from the cab. So it makes it vulnerable. So I am going to do something different. I'm going to follow this curve here using my thumb and bring this wire in. And I'm going to follow this curve here. I probably should have left the length, then I could have tucked them through this hole down here. I'm definitely going to rewrap the bottom here. I don't like that at all. But the purpose of this is to learn it, right? All the different techniques we use. So now I'm going to get myself some half round wire and I'm going to connect these. And then I'm going to roll them in. Yeah, if I had more length, I could have come around here. All sorts of ideas pop in my head. And we will be done. Oh my goodness, we're an hour and 20 into this one. So I'm going to connect here. That way they're nice and stable. Slide that down. So I'm pushing down on that half round while I'm rocking the wire. Probably going to have to work up here where I have more gap space and then slide it down. Yep. Sometimes you have to go in a different place. Okay. Now I'm going to get myself another little piece. And we will be done. I just got to connect these wires. Boy, that's tight. I need to lift up on this. Just give myself some working room. Or I'm not going to be able to get that wire through there. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to slide these down, which is really going to tighten those half rounds more because they tend to spread out on the bottom. Okay, and if I have room, I'd like to feed that through, but I'm not sure I do. Do on this side. Let's see. So I did a tutorial on this called Hide the Wire. There's a ton of techniques you guys are getting from this particular, and I kind of make a question mark because this is half round. I'm going to feed it through more. You want to keep a healthy loop. Hold your wraps down and then hold the loop down and pull it through until it locks in. So the same thing over here, and it's going to tighten that wrap down like you would not believe. So I got myself like my little question mark. I'm going to feed it through. Feel it catching up, and I know I got good gap space in there. There we go. Keep a loop on it, and then you will feel it lock in. When you yank on that, you will feel it lock in. I'm going to hold very tight on the wrap and do a wiggle jiggle and snap it off. Very tight, wiggle, jiggle, and snap it off. If you don't get it flush clean, you need really sharp nippers, and you just come in, snip off that little tip. Now, I don't think I have enough room to come back through the other way. I'm going to try. Give it a Girl Scouts try, right? I feel it kind of catching. Yep, let me see. Can I? Nope. Okay, so we're going to snap this from the inside. So I'm going to hold my wrap down really firmly and do a wiggle jiggle, and it's clean off. Same thing over here. All right, let's push these down. We are almost done. Okay, so I am going to, do I have room to tuck through? I think I do. That would be great. I'm going to try, you guys, excuse me. So I've got some gap space under here. I was either going to swirl them in, just a very tiny little swirl there. But I'm looking at this gap that I have down in here. And I'm hoping that if I lift up on this wire, now this is 18 gauge. I don't want it to lift up on my cab. So I'm going to bend the wire and direct it to where I want it to go. And let's see if I can do it. I'm thinking it's going to be too thick. Let's see. Yeah, doesn't appear that I'm going to have enough. I don't. Okay, so we're going to back out of that idea. I'm going to trim this. And I'm going to trim this. Then I'm going to look at them to make sure that they're similar shape by getting my curve going. Because I'm going in the opposite direction. This one is definitely too long. See how much longer this one is? Little bit at a time. Let's curve this up more. And let's see if this is centering up on the stone. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to curl these down. I'm working off the tip into the side of the frame like that. And that's not going to go anywhere. Trying to stay on the tip. Let's see what we got here. Then I'm going to push that down in the frame. Oh yeah, that looks great. Let's curl that in a little bit more. Push that down inside the frame, really pushing on that. And I think we're done. There you go, everybody. What do you think? I hope you enjoyed that. So it's the same concept as far as how I started the wrapping. It just changed. I am definitely going to change that. I know I've said it a million times. And then I'm going to set this in here. So this is going to be bent back, and that's going to sit on top. Isn't that going to be pretty? So anyways, everybody, please give me your feedback. I wish for all of you all that you wish for yourselves. May you have a magical, wonderful wire wrap day. Bye for now.